Carlos, we're live.
Oh, we're live. Are we live? Are you sure we're live?
It's always a surprise. All right, so who's going to introduce us, Carlos?
Hey, guys, how you doing? Well, this is Carlos Castellanos, and I'm here with my buddy Bob Ostrom, and we have a really special guest today, someone by the name of Tara Reid. A lot of you probably already know her. She's an artist and an art licensing expert, and she is an expert. She's been in the business, I think, well, she'll correct me if I'm wrong. I think she started back in 2004.
Yep.
She started licensing, and I think in 2008 or so she started teaching people how to do their licensing. So this whole webinar came to be because we were talking about the licensing, me and Bob, and Tara. We've been dying to get her on the show and doing an extensive interview with her about art licensing, because actually Bob and I both know a lot of illustrators that are starting to develop an interest in becoming licensed artists. As you know, a lot of the magazine markets are drying up quite a bit, so a lot of those markets are hard to get steady work from. So they're trying to develop other streams of income with their art. And art licensing is one of those areas that if you know what you're doing and you're following a proven path, it might be the right solution for you. Tara, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here.
For those people that aren't familiar with you, can you give them a little background on how you got started and where you are today?
Yep. I actually started, it was really weird. Back when I started in 2004, pretty much, I had never heard of art licensing. I had never really thought about where the art and designs came from that were on products that you buy in stores, because that's basically what artists in licensing do, is we create art for products. I had been designing in the scrapbooking industry for a few years, and it was just like this weird, odd phone call. I pick up the phone one day, and a girlfriend's on the phone, and she's like, hey, I'm in New York, and I was at the National Stationery Show, which always runs concurrent with the Surtex Show, which is short for Surface Textile Design. And it's one of the big art licensing shows. And she's like, there's artists here, and they're standing in booths, and manufacturers are looking for art, and you should do this. And I just laughed at her, and I said, oh, you've got to be kidding me. You know, I can do stuff in the scrapbooking industry. That's comfortable. That I know, but there's no way I could do that. And for 6 months, she told me I could, and for 6 months, I gave her all my fear-based reasons why I couldn't. And so finally, with much badgering and conversation, she's like, let's just try it. Let's just try it. So the first show we did was actually the Licensing Expo, because she couldn't do Surtex because of a work conflict. We had no idea what we were doing, because there was like one article online about art licensing. So we kind of dove in based on her recollection of what the booths looked like and what was happening, and so it was really interesting. It was also interesting, I was just getting divorced at the time, and I'd had a different name for 13 years, so I never really thought about, Tara Reid was my maiden name. I never really thought about it. It happened to be right when the actress had a very public wardrobe malfunction. So my first experience, yeah, my first experience was everyone looking for her. They're like, oh, Tara Reid. So thankfully, I don't have long blonde hair, and I can differentiate myself a little bit. So anyway, so that was my dive in. I had no idea what I was doing, and I got 2 little deals, and I decided, oh, I kind of like this business model. My friend decided she kind of didn't. So she went another direction, and I've continued licensing my work. I think it's a great fit for me personally, because I have a degree in marketing, and I used to be in sales before I had my son and was a stay-at-home mom and became a big old scrapbooker. So it really makes a lot of sense to me, because art licensing is truly the marriage of business and art. The entire purpose of the art is to sell products. And I love like Shark Tank and The Profit are some of my favorite shows. So I love learning about businesses, and I get to do that with my clients. So, art licensing, I guess my big secret that I will reveal today is it is absolutely not for everyone, and it is not it's not easy. it's getting harder, just like everything, just like you said, illustration's getting harder, but it can be done. And so I love creating art for licensing, and I also love talking about the business, which is why I started teaching and sharing about it, because I thought there has to be a better way than people finding out about it from random phone calls, or, I have a friend who had done her own ceramics, and they were in an airport, and some manufacturer got stranded somewhere and was wandering around aimlessly and found these plates, and so called her. It used to be really random, and so now people are starting to decide if they want to do it and be more conscious about it.
So what are some of the things that, because you work with a lot of people that are trying to get into licensing, obviously you coach them through that and you guide them, but what are the main hurdles that people face when trying to decide if licensing is for them?
One of the big ones is getting the portfolio together and really just deciding that they're okay with the creative process being about selling product. A lot of people with a fine art background have major issues with that. It just feels wrong. They try and tell me that it should all change, and that the American public should be educated to have a more discerning eye. And I'm like, I'm sorry. The American public wants snowmen for Christmas. They want Santa Claus. It's not going to happen. So sometimes some of the challenges are fitting into the paradigm of the business, and some people just aren't going to be there, or they're not going to choose to be, which is fine. I personally wouldn't do very well in the gallery world, because if you said, oh, tell me an artist statement, I had to make up some, not make up, I know it's real for people, but like if I had to say, oh, this was inspired by my walk through the park and my encounter with a butterfly, like that's just not who I am.
Right.
I would be like, oh, well, one of my clients needed a set of mugs, and so I started thinking about it, and I decided this would be funny and people would like it, and I think it would sell, and these colors are trending. It's not very sexy artist statements that I make.
But it fits a purpose, and
Yeah.
there are artists that are more comfortable with the commercial aspect of it.
Yeah.
I believe Bob and I are both comfortable with the commercial aspect as we were started out as commercial illustrators. So. I think the difference is that if you look at working with clients as a collaborative experience versus just something that's just about your art, and it's really like a team effort, and it's really you're offering to help them achieve their goals, whatever those goals might be, to get a certain product out and get a number of sales out, and that collaboration is really, like for me personally, is really what I kind of get off on, is just being able to work with somebody else.
Yeah, and so you would pass that first litmus test. You would be a good fit, because that's really what it's about. It's learning about your clients. What do they need? What do their end customers need? And it's, sometimes it's a little tricky, because, we're like the artist over here, and then our customer might be the manufacturer, who then sells to the retailer, who then sells to the consumer. So our art has to appeal to all of those people, but first and foremost, we have to make that manufacturer happy, or it's never going to get through the pipeline. Another thing that is tricky for people right now is, because it is so competitive and there are so many options for manufacturers, just from the sheer fact of more people knowing about the industry, you really have to have a solid portfolio. So, 25 years ago, you may have been able to get your start. I know one of Mary Englebright's stories, she's like, she started at the National Stationery Show with like 12 cards. No one can start a business with 12 card designs anymore. It just absolutely can't happen. You can't start an art licensing business and really get the better manufacturers that everybody wants to work with interested in you if all you have are 12 pieces, because they want to know, not only do you have art that they like for a project, but if it does well, are you going to be able to do something else? Do you have anything else waiting? I've heard of different people who have gotten burned. They've gone with a new artist and something's taken off, and then they're like, okay, what's next? What's the line extension? What's the next step? And the artist has no interest. Right. And so then they're left like, we have they're left with lost sales.
Right. Now, in terms of the art itself, I was just talking to an illustrator earlier this week, and he's trying to get in. He's trying to ease himself into the licensing world, but he's a commercial illustrator, but he's leaning more towards selling prints and kind of feeling that area out. One of the things that we were talking about is having, like what you said, that even in art licensing, it's becoming a well-trafficked area. I mean, a lot of people are moving into it. A lot of people are becoming aware of the industry and how it works. One of the things we were talking about is the focus of his style of art is to be able to create enough of a body of work within that style and that genre that he makes an impact. Is it important to pick something and have 40, 50 pieces in one theme or one category, or do you want to diversify? I mean, that's a question I hear a lot from illustrators, that they're just not sure. They try to do maybe too many things.
My answer is yes to that question.
Alrighty then.
Or one of my favorite answers for anyone that's ever heard me before is it depends.
Right.
There's two schools of thought there. Paul Brent is a very successful artist. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. Very, very successful in licensing, and I've become very close friends with him, and we've discussed this a lot. And his feeling and how he built his business and how he guides artists is put your flag in the sand somewhere. Just like you were saying, like pick a theme or pick a style, go deep, use that to make yourself stand out. Because part of it is, how do you make yourself seen and heard above the fray, above the noise of everybody that's like, hey, I'm new, I want to try this, or whatever. So he really built his business based on coastal art. Like any manufacturer that has been in licensing, if they need coastal, they're talking to him, because he has over 25 years worth of coastal designs and is always doing new coastal. He has also expanded out from that, so he does a wide variety of things. Well, I didn't have anybody to tell me that when I started. So, when we naively went to our first show, we had no idea what we're doing. I'm like, I don't know, I'm just going to throw a bunch of stuff out there and see what sticks. So my career has really been built on being prolific and doing a lot of different topics, and even a little bit a variety of styles. So some of my best customers like me for that, because they don't have to just work with me. Oh, Tara's known for coastal, so we'll get coastal from her, and then we have to find somebody else for Christmas. We have to find somebody else for this. I can do like 6 different themes, and you won't even necessarily know they're all mine.
Right.
So that works well with my customers. What it doesn't work well with, which is another reason I like to have these conversations, because my business has kind of gone a certain direction by default because I didn't know to make the choice. My name will never be a consumer name. Like, I will never be a Mary Engelbright, a Thomas Kincaid. Kelly Ray Roberts is a newer artist that's very noticeable. Like, people, they see their art and they know it's them because they have a tight style, a tight look. My sister doesn't even recognize everything I do. So, I'm a known name and brand within the industry, within artists, within the manufacturers, but I'm not going to be as known from the consumer side because it's not as recognizable. Right. So artists just need to decide, how important is that to them? How do they want to build their business? Is it more important to be able to play with styles and themes and work with people that they want and be able to get more work with a few people, or is it more important that they want to really build that customer base and that known style and try and build their name and brand that way?
So would you say it's easier to get started if you have something that you could be known for, or is it easier to get started if you have a wide variety of different styles?
I don't know. Because I don't know, I feel old. Like, I've never done anything for 11 years other than be a mom. But now, like, the climate's so different now since 2008. I would say, see me looking, I'm like trying to find the answer for you. I think it's being unique. And whether you're unique in a theme and, a really specific thing, or you just have a new look and a unique way of looking at a variety of really common topics, that's going to be more important. You know, you don't want to be unique for St. Patrick's Day, for example, and think you're going to build a full-time income in licensing, because you're not. Because St. Patrick's Day, it's a very short season. There's limited number of products that are done there. Now, if you're going to pick a theme that's deep, that everyone's always looking for. Pick Christmas, pick wine, pick, you know, drinks in general, pick florals. There's certain categories that are kind of the staple of what manufacturers are always looking for new. If you go, a lot of things that I see with newer artists is they try and be so unique that they're a little too far right or left.
They kind of just missed the mark.
Yeah, and so it's like, okay, well, that's cool, but I'm not sure what you're going to do with it. Or I've seen a lot of people that like doing art with figures in it, with people, and people don't do really well in licensing. If you even think about baby products rarely have a baby on them. You know, the paper plates and gift bags and nursery things, they have animals on them because, you know, the person who's adopted the baby from China doesn't want the white girl with red pigtails on her stuff. They want it to relate, but a cute pink elephant, that works for everyone.
Interesting point.
Yeah, so it's also stuff like that, like Bob's Dinosaurs. I was just on his Facebook page today. Like, that could work really well for kid. And I'm sure he could draw really cute little babies, but his babies wouldn't do as well in licensing as his dinosaurs.
I just want to say one thing for the record.
Yes?
I draw excellent babies.
I believe.
I understand what you're saying. So can we back up just a step? Let's say that I've got this body of work, and I'm thinking, you know, boy, I'd love to license this. I mean, I don't even know how to get started, where to go, what to do. I mean, what's my first step? Like right out of the gate. The second step, I should say, after calling Tara Reid is.
Okay, so yeah, after learning a little bit about how the industry works.
Yeah.
The second step would be making sure your online presence is ready. I mean, I've had a couple of people that I've coached, and they get so excited they start sending emails to manufacturers. And then we have these little fire drills together, and I'm like, wait, okay, you know, because we want you to look like you're ready and you're serious about licensing. You don't want your website to look like, hey, I'm trying everything. I got Etsy, I got Zazzle, I got Society6, I'm selling direct. Like, the manufacturers are so inundated, they want to see people that are committed to working in licensing. So while you can be selling online, I always recommend at least have a page that says art licensing, like one page, and then have enough art on there that they can see your style, because they can figure out, a good art director can figure out in 30 seconds if you might be a fit, if they want to stay on that site or if they want to talk to you again. I mean, the people, it's interesting at trade shows, I've learned over the years, the people that look really slowly at your portfolio, and I'm like acting like I'm flipping a page even though we do iPads now, the people that, oh, that's nice, they're rarely the people I work with. It's the people that zoom and stop. Oh, that could work. Oh, that could work. Like, they know what their clients need.
Right. So,
you know, so being ready online, because you never know who's going to show up. That's one of the next steps. And then, you know, learning the business side of it. Understanding manufacturers 10 years ago were willing, if they liked your art, they were willing to take the time and explain how it worked and explain the contracts. They're less willing to do that now because there's fewer people, they're doing more jobs in their business, and they know that there's so much more information online. So they want artists to be more prepared when they approach them, to understand how it works so that they don't have to train everyone. I've had several manufacturers that tell me they just send people to my blog. They're like, okay, we like your stuff, but go figure it out first. Like, understand how it works.
Right. And you've got a good collection of information over on your website, so we'll put up some links on the show notes, you know, where people can come find that.
Well, go ahead and repeat your website real quick, Tara. So people.
All right. My main website, I have a whole variety of them, but my main website that links everything is artlicensinginfo.com. And so that will link to the blog, which is artlicensingblog.com. Those are kind of my two main places where I'm talking regularly. I have a lot of different resources, free audios, interviews, ebooks, classes. We're going to talk a little bit about that new program that I've been doing. You know, there's lots and lots of ways to learn about the industry.
There's something that I want. I'm just going to step to the side here for just 1 second, because this is something that a lot of people, when they talk to me, I always reference back to Tara Reid. I learned this from Tara Reid. I learned this from Tara Reid. So there's one thing that I learned from Tara Reid that I wanted to share, and I've shared this before. Some people will look at me and they'll be like, "Oh, again, Bob." But we talked a long time ago on the phone. I'm not sure if you remember. I called you one night and I was thinking about, I wanted to get into this or that, or maybe do some coaching or whatever. But you mentioned to me that you have this thing called No Art Friday. And I love that, and I grasped that thing, and I was like, yes, No Art Friday. But at the time, I was like, No Art Friday? How is this possible? So, so I wanted to thank you for No Art Friday, because I use that now, and I use Fridays for, getting my business stuff in line, and getting out and learning some things, all that kind of stuff. So thank you for No Art Friday. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome. It was funny yesterday. I'm getting ready to go to Seattle tomorrow and teach, and I know it's going to be like an intense and tons of people for 3 days. So, and I've been working, and so I was like, okay, I need to take a day off. And yesterday I discovered I'm getting really bad at it. Like
it creeps up on you, doesn't it?
And then I would come home and I'm like, I should go step away from the computer. And No Art Friday came about when I was trying to balance the whole, creating art and also teaching, because I can get into a mode. And, I grew up on the East Coast, Catholic family, so I have a lot of inbred guilt. It's like in my DNA. So if I'm not creating, I'm feeling guilty, like, I'm not doing art. And so I just created that. I'm like, okay, so this is the day where it doesn't matter. Like, it's my day to write blog posts, to, like you said, work on the business. Because as artists, and this is really important in licensing or any type of art business, is we have to remember we're both the technician and the business owner. So we're creating the art, and most of us want to do that. So, if you read the Robert Kiyosaki or the E-Myth, two books that I love, Michael Gerber, like, they kind of talk down about that. Like, you need to stop being the technician. You need to learn how to outsource everything to the lowest pay level so that you can go away for a year and come back richer, which sounds great. But we're all technicians. We love what we do.
Sure.
But we also have to take that time, and maybe it's every Friday or every Monday or every Wednesday, whatever works. We have to take that time and step back and work on our business as opposed to in our business, because we get so stuck in our business that we forget to step back and say, okay, where do I want to go? Instead of just being the hamster, have I put all my expenses into QuickBooks? Because who wants to do that on April 10th for the whole year? Like, do it every week. Creating those systems and, those guilt-free zones. So.
Yeah, it's got to be that balance of doing the business side and the creative side that you love. Because Bob and I have talked about Michael Gerber and the E-Myth and stuff in the past, and for, like you said, for artists, we love doing this. So we don't want to necessarily be out of doing that. I mean, we enjoy doing it, but at the same time, we can't just be doing that all the time, because then you don't have a business where you're just producing art, but you're not handling the business end of it.
Right.
Yeah. Part of the thing that I found about that was, if you automate everything, you lose that creative flair, the thing that people come to you for. So you have to. There's a careful balance there, and that's why I really like that whole idea of the No Art Friday. At first, it really blew my mind, man. But then,
you're like, no, I want a color.
But then, then I started to think about it. Well, when else are you going to promote your business? When else are you going to get your stuff out there and schedule your week and all that kind of stuff? I mean, if you don't set aside some time, you're constantly chasing that, and so it's always a catch-up kind of thing,
Yeah,
and it really requires that you take time away, because they're two different hats that you're wearing. When you're in your creative mode, you're not in a business mode, and when you're in a business mode, you may not be necessarily in a creative mode. So for me, it works to really have that hard delineation between the two. It's not like you can be drawing comics or something right now, and then for the next half hour I'll do work on bills. It doesn't work that way,
Yeah. Yeah,
I
or you
totally
can like
agree with that.
literally you start to feel it. You can feel like your left brain taking over from your right and this little battle in there. Like, no, I want to paint. No, you need to blog. No, you need to do your accounting. You need to make your phone calls.
Let me ask you. Let me ask you a quick question about the. You and I had talked a few years ago about this a little bit. Um, in art licensing, I mean, just to get back to that for a second, it takes time between the time that you get hired or someone purchases your designs till the time that you actually collect a check. This is something about the art licensing world that maybe a lot of people don't realize, and they think they can just jump in and just start making some money real quick. There's a life cycle or a process cycle in art licensing. You want to talk about that a little bit so that people have a realistic vision of what they're getting into when they're planning for this?
Yes. Yeah, one thing I always tell people is, if you have a bill to pay next month, art licensing is absolutely not your solution. This is it's a long-term commitment when you're starting, and you have to have another way to pay your bills, be that another job, a spouse, an inheritance, whatever. And it's gotten harder since I started because since, I kind of divide business pre-2008, post-2008. Post-2008, there's a lot less advances. So some companies will pay, when they decide, okay, Carlos, we love this collection, we're going to do this amazing 40 SKU product line with it, we're going to really blow it out, we think it's going to be huge, they may pay you in advance. Mm-hmm. You always ask for it. Always ask. But some companies, as a rule, never pay advances. I've had companies come up to me at trade shows and say, I love your stuff. We never pay advances. Should we keep talking? Because it is like that cut and dry. There's no negotiating on that point. I personally always say yes because I want to see what I think the potential is going to be. So, for example, I just got a new deal last week. And so it was like we had been working for about 2 months getting the art right, and okay, they kind of like the art, now we need to do samples showing it, and then we get the commitment from the retailer. So now we do our contract. Like, okay, I'll send the contract amendment with this art because this company and I already have a contract in place, how we work together. Then when we add new designs for new products, we add an amendment to it. So just kind of staple it on there so that we can keep track. Now, that product is not going to be in the marketplace until fall of 2014 because it's for Christmas, not this Christmas, but next Christmas. So if it ships in, and everything is based on quarters. I'm very, very aware of calendar quarters. So, January, February, March, that's your first quarter. Anything that ships within a quarter, so within a 3-month period, you're going to get paid your royalty, and this is in traditional art licensing, is based on royalties, based on sales. You're going to be paid that within 30 to 45 days of the end of the quarter. So end of May, or end of April, beginning of May, I'm getting almost 25% of my money for the year. So it often takes 9 to 12 months from when you get the deal signed to when you get the money. Right. Sometimes you'll get a little bit of an advance, a couple $100. If you get 1,000, it's often a miracle these days in just more traditional licensing. So you have to plan for that. It's like a pipeline. You have to give yourself time to build that portfolio, figure out how you do your marketing, make those connections, build those relationships, finally get the deals. Put them in the pipeline. Then you're working on the other deal. I was talking to somebody the other day. I'm like, yeah, it's kind of funny. Sometimes it's so far between the two that I forget about it, and all of a sudden the check shows up, and I'm like,
what's this for?
Oh, yeah, because I'm like 9 more down the line of projects that I'm working on because you just have to keep that ball rolling. So.
Yeah, it's all about that cash flow too. I mean, and a lot of freelancers or artists have really hard times with cash flow because their businesses are constantly going up and down. So if you're going to pursue art licensing, you really need to either have, a solid freelance career going where you're making enough consistent money, or have or have a part-time or something else to help it out, or a spouse or something that'll help you through those rough months. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that because I think it's an important point. I see a lot of people talking about, I think I'm going to go into art licensing because they hear a lot of talk about it, and I get the sense that they almost think they can just kind of jump in and sell something and everything's going to be okay, and it's not like
$1 million. Oh,
right.
and here let's clear up 2 other misconceptions about this industry that may have been true 30 years ago. Absolutely not now. Some artists feel like they can dump old art into art licensing. I've run across that a few times recently. Like, well, I have this portfolio and I have this stockpile of art, but now I want to do something different. But I thought I could earn some more money on this older stuff by licensing it, and then it'll be a residual income for me, and it'll just keep paying. It's not going to work that way. The life cycle of products has gotten so short that this is a numbers game. If you are not an art creation factory, you will never make a full-time living in art licensing. 15 years ago, a product may have stayed on the shelf for 3 years. Now it's 1. It can be a bestseller, like a best-selling Christmas thing. You will probably not see it next Christmas because consumers always want new. So you're constantly having to recreate Santa, as I like to say.
That's a great point.
Yeah, and so you can't just take old stuff and think you're going to dump it in there because, like I had said before, the manufacturers are kind of looking at you and saying, okay, so if this works, can I get more? But if you've moved on to a totally different business, they're not going to put their time and money into that, even if they think it'll work, because it won't be a long-term strategy. They won't be able to get the next thing from you and the next thing from you.
And that's the thing. I mean, people have to realize that the companies are investing in those product lines, in those design lines, money, resources, in the hopes that they have something to springboard off of later, and it pays off for them on the long run.
Yeah.
If you're not thinking that way, they're not going to be interested.
Yeah, it's a major commitment. Yeah, you got to be on board with it, and it's the same way in a lot of different businesses too. Or I shouldn't say businesses, but a lot of different ways to sell your art. People want to know that you're invested in what you're doing. They want to know that you're serious because it's a major commitment on their part too.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one of my new deals, I work very closely with this one client, and we just got a big deal with I'm not allowed to say who yet, but a major retailer for I think they're picking up 40 of my coffee mugs at once.
Congratulations.
How exciting. I cannot wait to go. If I have to fly, I will go fly to get my picture taken with that. That's so cool. But, as we're talking about this, and she's telling me, I had this great meeting, and blah, blah, and they picked up this, and we need to change a little bit on this and this, because, it's never quite right. They want this, but they want this color, and whatever. In my head, I'm already thinking, oh my gosh, now I need to replenish, because if these sell well, they're going to say, what's next? So we need to have 60 to 80 more for them to choose from. Because we're not just going to be able to say, oh, here, replace this 40 with this 40, and they're going to say, okay. It doesn't work that way.
Right. And Tara, how do you decide, getting back to the numbers real quick, you mentioned that the numbers were different back prior to 2008 than they are now, in terms of what they pay you up front and possibly even the percentage of royalties. I don't know how much that has changed at all. But transitioning from pre-2008, where you were getting an advance, you were getting maybe X amount of royalty, and then during that shift, what was there a point where you were trying to, because nobody wants to get paid or not get paid an advance if they were used to getting that up front, because nobody wants to work for nothing up front. I mean, so how did you make that transition from getting a royalty up front and then not getting one? I mean, were you trying to push for it and you just found that the market just wasn't giving it to you, or what?
Yeah, I mean, it becomes relationship conversations. Like one of my clients, it was just routine. If they picked up your art, you got a $500 advance and you got this percentage of royalties, and this is how it worked. Just absolutely routine, like clockwork. And then all of a sudden, they just started having conversations. They're like, you know what? Everything's changed. Here's what's changed for us. From on our end, the retailers are pushing for lower margins, but our prices are going up because The Chinese are starting, they're starting to have problems overseas getting the people to work in the factories for nothing, and so costs are going up 50%, and consumers don't want to pay any more than they have been, and the retailers need the margins lower. It's like this economic mess. I don't know how anything sells for $4 anymore. It just still baffles my mind. And so they basically said, the only way we can stay in business is if you work with us. And it really became a matter of deciding, am I still committed to this industry? And if so, which of my clients am I committed to, that I believe enough in, and that I feel like they believe enough in me, that I'm willing to do whatever it's going to take from both of us to stay in business. I mean, so many companies went out of business. It was just crazy. I don't know if you've listened to it, but if people sign up for my e-newsletter, I recently did like this 30-minute audio. It's totally free if you sign up for the newsletter, or if you already sign up, just email me and I can send it to you if you don't have it. But it talks about, why you need more than pretty pictures to succeed in art licensing. And so, I don't know, I kind of got my little business hat back on, and I started looking at it like, okay, these things are changing and people are talking about it, but why? Like, why the change? So I was like geeking out, looking at census data and the retail market, and it was really fascinating to watch. Like in the mid-'80s, 50% of consumer spending was being spent in mom and pop stores, which meant stores that had 12 or less owned by the same people. So, really that Main Street, as we're now calling it,
right,
thing. And then in the 90s, the chain stores started coming in. So like the Bed Bath & Beyond and Lynn's and things and everything, and it completely changed the landscape. Well, 2008 came along, and even more of those smaller ones went out. So you have fewer people to sell to. And so the manufacturers, if you don't get those big deals, like, okay, how are we staying in business? Because you don't have that other base to sell to as much. And so it's all trickled back to us.
But at the same time, those companies have major distribution. I mean,
Yeah.
you're not, that's at a totally different scale from a mom and pop shop.
Right. So if you get that deal, it's amazing.
Right.
It's hundreds and thousands versus, this store is going to get 3 of this and 3 of that.
Exactly.
So the royalties are down, but when you get the deal, it's bigger. So it's like there's more opportunity and less opportunity at the same time. Because, 15 years ago, you may have gotten the deal and you would have kept it for 3 years. Now, you get the deal, but then it's open again the next year. But they're all smaller. I don't know if you're big shoppers. They say 90% of shopping is done by women. I'm sitting here with 2 men. But, I remember 15 years ago.
Bob likes to shop for baseball caps.
Yeah, you'd go out after Christmas, and the amount of clearance product was insane. Stores have figured out how to not have that, how to decrease the amount of clearance product, like they're clearancing it before Christmas. They would rather run out than have stuff left over, and that affects us too, because the order sizes, so you have to have more deals, you have to do more work and get more deals to even try and make the same money people were making 10 years ago.
So this is a higher volume.
Yeah, but I don't know what industry that's not the case.
Right.
Yeah, I find that in the children's book world too. Some of the publishers that I used to work with are now gone. That things have changed a lot. I mean, business is asking for a lot more from the artists these days than it did, I would say, maybe 10 or 12 years ago. So it seems like there's a ability to reach larger groups than there ever was before, but there's very little in between now, it seems,
Yeah, but one thing that I do sometimes, and people laugh at me, but it really does work for me, is, I get frustrated sometimes, and I feel like, oh my God, this is too hard. Why am I doing this? I should have chosen a different career. I have a business degree. Why did I decide to become an artist? We all get into that place. So what I do when I get bad in that place is I go to Craigslist and I look for a job. I usually love my job within 15 minutes. I mean, go look for a creative job on Craigslist and see all the skills they want you to have to pay you $12 an hour. Yeah. Like, it really helps make you say, you know what, I do have it pretty good. I don't usually have my hair done and makeup on at this hour. It was only 9 o'clock here when we started. Like, I'm hanging out in my PJs and I'm still working. But it's like, it's flexible. I get to make my own decisions. So
Yeah, that's the big attraction, I think, for doing what we do, is being able to make your own decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you're looking at what we do, I think it takes, not that it takes like huge effort, but all you really need to do, from my experience, is just get a handle on a few things to be successful enough to be able to make a living at what you're doing, and really enjoy that freedom. Because I don't think any of us, I mean, if you talk to artists in general, we're not out to make millions, and that's not our primary goal. We want to be able to create art and be able to experience the freedom that we have as artists, being able to come and go, and like all of us, I mean, we can hang out with our children, we can make the dance recitals, the football games, whatever whatever you have there. So it just takes a little bit of effort to kind of keep you consistent with your income and being successful with your art. And you don't have to be a business major by any means.
No, you don't, but you have to know, you have to understand business. And in art licensing, it's becoming more and more important to understand the business side of things as well as creating the art. If you really don't want to, it's really not your strength, then you hire an agent. You can always hire out the business side. You hire people to do it for you personally, or you hire an agent. But I think it's really important for everyone to understand how the business works, to understand basics of contracts, to know when to call an attorney, to know when you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
I think if I had it to do again, and I were to go back and go to maybe where I was just about ready to graduate college, I think I would have focused a little bit more on business and marketing, because those are two areas that I really had no experience in. And so when you just dive into this world of art and you try to make it without having any business experience or marketing experience, you're in for a big surprise. A little bit of a shock.
I don't know. I have to say, looking at it through my filter, I'm a little irritated with a lot of art schools out there. Like, why are they not teaching more of that? Why are they not, teaching more of like, yeah, you have to have you have to have the skill, you have to have the unique style, you have to know all this stuff, but you also need to understand how to look decent online. You need to know how to have a conversation with a business person.
Yeah, put together a marketing package and sell yourself. I mean, some of the best artists in the world are going to be starving if they don't know how to do those kind of things. So I think that's a really important thing, and that's one of the things that we really stress on this show, is understanding that marketing side of things.
Yeah. When I was in college, there was like a week where I wanted to major in French. I was an exchange student in high school, and I loved it, and I loved my French literature class. I'm a lifelong student. I love learning stuff. And my dad was totally cool with this, and my mom had an absolute hissy fit, and she's like, absolutely not. You're not majoring in French. There's whole countries of people that speak this language. Like, you can minor in it, and you can do it, but what the heck are you going to do with that if you don't decide to become a college teacher and teach other people how to speak French? And so, our family thing was always, if you don't want to be a doctor and you don't want to go into the sciences or engineering, you're going to go into business. My uncle says it's our family major. My sister, brother, and I all majored in business. My brother's now a firefighter. So we didn't all necessarily follow that, but it has certainly served me. And I'm now doing that, with my son. I've basically raised him. Hey, if you're not sure, if you don't want to go into sciences, then you're going to go into business. Still follow your passion. Who am I to say don't follow your passion? That's crazy. So he's majoring in business and minoring in music because that's his passion. And so he wants to get into the business side of music or doing his own music production, but he will be able to do what he wants to do, because not only does he have those skills, but he's going to know how to market them. He's going to know how to look at a contract and how to do that stuff. So it's just so important.
Especially in today's day and age where it's so easy for you to start a business, almost any kind of business. You know, to have that business background, even if it's just basic business, just to be able to structure your ideas and be able to move forward and find that market and be able to speak to that market in a way that you're going to be able to communicate with them so yeah, it's a huge advantage to have that. And I think a lot of artists just always rely just on the art, and like you said, I mean, the schools don't focus on it enough.
And it's not even to say you have to you have to go back to art school or you have to go to business school like a traditional college. There's the beauty of the internet is you can learn so much. Like I said, I'm a lifelong learner. I invest a lot of money in coaching and education and doing different events. I mean, I've learned everything. Internet marketing didn't exist when I was in college. See, I'm making myself really old again. I've learned all that through books and taking classes and being in, mastermind groups and just really trying to figure it out. There's so much that you can kind of bootstrap, learn piece by piece. And
it's so much cheaper too doing it that way.
Yes.
I mean, 'cause even art lessons, and there's so many great, amazing, talented, Disney artists and people that really do it for a living are fantastic and are teaching people how to do it, like you and Bob.
Yeah, I'm taking lessons from Bob. He's awesome. I need to sign up again, but I've been a little busy.
Bob.
I learned.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we had a great session. So Tara wanted to learn about Illustrator.
My client is so happy. I decided, and this is the other thing, like I decided that one of my clients, great relationship, was getting the impression that her graphics person wasn't 100% in love with me because I did everything in Photoshop. And some of the things that I was doing really should have been done in Illustrator, and she would softly, and it was getting less soft, say, why are you doing this? So I finally said, okay, after 11 years of resistance, I've always said I'm like a Navy SEAL in Illustrator. I get in and out as fast as possible. We are not friends. And can't see you anymore. My calendar got in front of me. Hold on.
So you just start creating the vector art.
Okay. Yeah, so, so I decided, hey, it's time. I got to learn it because I want to keep this client and I want to build this relationship. And so this lady was practically doing backflips when I said, I'm committed. I've hired a coach. I'm going to learn this. And I didn't. She was just so proud of me. So, yeah, I'm going to learn more about that. So it's like you find the people that you resonate with, that you feel like, okay, they are head of the parade, so they know more than me, and kind of go from there. Like we briefly mentioned it, one of my new programs, I'm doing a 4-week group coaching program. It's all done by phone, called the Art Licensing Academy. And it was basically from people wanting more, not wanting to necessarily invest in personal coaching, but wanting to get up to speed faster. So, in a month, I'm giving them what I want them to know. So like one day it's kind of lecture style and we talk about the art. How do you take your creativity, package it for licensing? Then we talk about the marketing. How do you reach those manufacturers? Who are you trying to talk to? What do you say when you pick up the phone? Like basic stuff that scares people. Then we talk about like time management and self-care. It's so important. As one of my mentors says, if you're the golden goose of your business, you better take care of it, because if you give all your feathers away, you're in big trouble. So we talk about that, and then the last week we talk about the contracts, because art licensing is a contract-based business, and it's my least favorite part. It's almost everyone's least favorite part, but it's so important. It will make or break your business if you don't understand. If you do or don't understand it. And then the second day, so it's 2 days each week, is all Q&A. So it's totally what we talk about and where we go is totally based on the artists that are in the class. And then we also have like a private Facebook group, which I keep running even after the classes are over, so people can still bond with each other, check in, ask questions. I still jump in there a little bit, and it's a great way to kind of do the homework I give them on the one day and like, oh, hey, I put this collection together. What do you think? And everybody can say what they think, and so it's kind of like working with clients. It's that co-creative thing, like, oh, I really like that. Have you thought about this? No, I never thought about that. Okay, and then it goes, so it kind of bounces around instead of just one mind working on the Halloween project or whatever.
It's also different when you're in a group where people are investing in themselves, because their energy is at a totally different level, I've found.
Yes.
Than if you're just kind of just randomly, like with a bunch of friends or something, locally or something, just kind of hanging out. The conversations always kind of drift. But when you have people that are focused in a group that have paid to be there, I find that the interaction and the level of commitment with everybody and the feedback is at a much higher level.
Oh yeah, and for me especially, like the more I pay, the more committed I am. I just finished a 6-month program that I paid $9,000 to be in.
Wow.
I mean, I got yeah, like sometimes people are like, oh, it's too expensive. And I'm like, don't even talk to me about too expensive because you don't even know the level to which I'm investing in my learning and my
Right.
growth. But my life has completely changed from being a part of that group in the past year. I'm sure these people are going to be friends for life. We've created little splinter things like, okay, let's all have a group about this specific topic, or it's good.
Yeah, so that's the part of it. I think that most people that have never done that, I think they fail to see the quality of connections that you make
Yeah.
with other people. Not necessarily people that are doing the same exact thing that you're doing, possibly, but something different. And you end up developing these peer partners, in a sense that you wouldn't have found any other way. And they're quality peer partners because
Yeah.
they're investing in themselves as well, and when you invest in yourself, you're more apt to take action on whatever it is that you're doing. As I was telling Bob a while back too, when I first joined my first mastermind, you know, the transformation occurred immediately as I wrote my name on that check. It's like nothing was said to me. It's like the minute I wrote out that check, it was like I was a changed man, you know. Because you have to be, because you got something, you got skin in the game, you got something on the line, and there's a reason for you to do something now, versus just kind of willy-nilly, just kind of putting stuff off. And so yeah, absolutely. So tell me a little bit more about the program for people that have been listening today, want more information. I mean, obviously we talked about quite a few things, and then you also have on your website, you have a lot of information as well. But in terms of, who's a good fit for this? Let's pre-qualify someone so that they know if they're a good fit for this or not.
So it is a 4-week program, and it's on Wednesdays and Fridays. It starts on Wednesday, October 8th, and they're all held by phone. So, and it's interesting, the people that have signed up so far, I have quite a few international people. So they're not necessarily going to be live, because I think we're doing it at 9 o'clock my time, noon Eastern time, but some people are in Europe, so it's like 1 in the morning. So especially the lecture days, they're just going to listen to the recording. But it's good for a person who, A, has a lot of time in October, because you don't want to invest in a program if you don't have time to implement it. The worst thing, I recently did a free little 4-week staycation audio series that anybody could sign up. I had a deadline, like if you sign up by this day, you get this. So every Monday, they got an audio. It was 5 to 10 minutes from me. And it was really fun to watch because I had 465 people sign up, 275 opened the first email, and by week 4, only 175 opened it. Okay. So it shows you the commitment level, right? So and that was for free, so that made total sense. But you don't want to pay to do a program and do the first week. So you want to make sure as an artist, like, okay, I really, really want to shorten my learning curve. There aren't shortcuts, as we were talking about before this. Like, my doctor recently told me, he's like, shortcuts create short outcomes. This was when I was complaining about, like, weight stuff. And I'm like, I'm just going to go get plastic surgery. It'll be faster. This skin thing is getting on my nerves. And he's like, it's just not going to last, though, Tara, and just laughs at me. So we have this banter. And so I can't give you shortcuts because there are no shortcuts to building a portfolio. You have to do that. There's not shortcuts to learning how to make a phone call and overcome your fear. I can give you tools. I can give you encouragement. I can give you accountability. But I can't pick the phone up for you. So it's for people that really want to shorten their learning curve. They want to learn a lot fast. They want to have a group that they're accountable to, on Facebook, on the Q&As, and that they're going to take the time to implement. Because I can teach you things, and if you're just like, oh, that's cool, and then you just turn it off and go back to your everyday life and never implement any of it, it's not going to help. It's going to be a waste of time.
I've been there.
So yeah, I mean, we all have. Most people go in with good intentions, like, okay, I'm really going to commit to this. But, and one of the things that I've really learned over the past 10 years or so is I've learned I have really good intuition, and I think most people do. And so I tell people, I've been emailing with a couple artists the past few days that are interested, and they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, here, I'll answer your questions. Here's what I can tell you. I said, but in the end, I want you to do a gut check. Close your eyes. What does your gut say? Does your gut say the time is right and you're going to do it, but you're just a little scared? Then do it. If your gut says, it doesn't feel quite right yet, then wait. I'm going to do it again in June. You know, I usually get that adrenaline rush, like when I signed up for the $9,000 program. You can imagine. I was like, oh, I don't know. Like, I knew this person was what I needed. I knew this program was right, and I almost didn't do it because I almost let the money be the problem. And I'm like, no, my gut says do it. I'm going to do it. Thankfully, I have a very supportive husband. He's like, okay, I trust your gut. Your gut has not led us wrong yet.
Right.
You know, so there's that. People that are going to engage.
Right.
I'm really excited. I think it's going to be. The price is a little more than it was last time. It's $497 for the month. So I partially did that for, like you said, Carlos. I want the people that are willing to invest in the information. I would rather have fewer people and a more intimate group that's really invested in making change for themselves and figuring out how it's going to work for them than to have, you know, 1,000 people paying me $100.
Right. Yeah, Bob and I were talking about this just last week about the commitment level on what people invest in themselves. If you don't invest in anything, chances are you're not going to hold it in high value, and your chances are you're not going to do anything with it. But for me personally, when I've invested the most amount of money, it's really when I became the most serious, because you really had to think about it. You know, and the more it hurts, the more serious you get about getting that outcome. You know. When I first joined my mastermind group, it was like $12,000 a year, and you know, that was $1,000 a month. I mean, think about it, break that down. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, wow, I got to generate an extra $1,000 a month. You know, so that'll light a fire under your butt.
Yeah.
So yeah, so if you want results, I mean, I think you have to put yourself in those positions with quality people that are going to get you the information you need, but understand yourself as well, and that you know what your motivations are. But yeah, I think if you take your investment seriously, and it's not an investment in you, Tara, or your program, as far as I'm concerned, I think people make the decision. It's an investment in yourself. You decide. You know, once you decide that you're worth it, then you're going to get something out of it. If your hopes are always hanging on someone else or what someone else is going to do or say or teach you, I always find that gets you. You know, less further along than if you take it upon yourself and the responsibility is yours.
Yeah. It's kind of like hiring a trainer. You know, like if you ever watch The Biggest Loser,
Right,
they always
yeah.
have the
Love that show.
opposite trainers. You know, Jillian Michaels, she is in your face, screaming at you, you know, you need to do this, you can do that. Like, that doesn't motivate me. I'd want to work out with Bob. Maybe I need Jillian, but like that's so.
I'd be much gentler. Come on, okay, it's
Yeah, you know, so
not screaming.
Let's go grab a pizza.
Yeah.
yeah, so you know, so I think it is. You're right. It's. Do you, Carlos, want to invest in yourself? But it also has to be. Do I feel like a fit for Carlos? You know, I am a look on the bright side person. You know, I am not negative Nelly. I'm realistic. I'm not blowing smoke in people's orifices and telling them this is super easy and this is super fun, but I'm not saying it can't work either. You know, so I'm all about, okay, here's what you're doing, here's how it can be even better, here's how to do this, now go run with it.
Right.
Where, you know, different teachers have different styles, so.
Yeah, so find the one that fits best with your personality. You know,
Yeah.
the one that gets you motivated. Sometimes you need a cheerleader. Sometimes you need somebody who's a little more supportive. Sometimes you need somebody who yells at you. It depends on
Yeah.
where you're at, you know. So.
Yeah, I usually don't yell. I'll tell people, like, that's pretty far off the mark, like, go back.
I'm with you on that. I don't think yelling is effective.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's just not. If you come to me, I'm not going to yell at you.
It's true. You didn't say, why can't you figure that out? You asked me that 3 times.
No, you got to. I mean, you have to find, and I think it's the sign of a good teacher is finding what motivates that student as well. You know, so if you're working with somebody, you know what gets them going. So you know, be that person, be the person that stands behind them and gets them out there and doing the right thing.
Yeah, taking the time to understand what motivates somebody is really important. Tara, is there a size limit to your class?
No. I mean, I've done it 2 other times. The first class we had 27 people. The second class we had 42 people, and they both worked. I'm expecting this one to be the smallest class just because of the price change and the investment change. People are going to have to be doing a little bit more of a gut check, but I haven't limited it. What I do, however, is like on the sign up sheet it says that the Q&A is for an hour. In my mind, if I have more than 25 students, I go an hour and a half because I want to make sure everybody gets the support that they need. So.
Yeah, and usually a lot of times when you have big groups like that, someone else is asking possibly the question that you had in mind anyway. So
yeah.
It's not like everybody has a separate question. A lot of people have pretty much the same questions.
Yeah, and it always becomes like the same people are asking questions or at least starting questions. And some people are more comfortable throwing a question out on Facebook versus live on a call type of a thing. So.
Excellent. Well, if you're interested in following up with Tara and you liked what you heard today, if this is the first time you're exposed to Tara, you know, I would highly recommend Tara. I mean, we've known each other for a few years now, online, and she's really right.
Sorry, folks.
Actually, Bob was asking me about that the other day. But if you're familiar with Tara, or if you just became familiar with her today, and you want to follow up on, she's really the go-to person in art licensing. I mean, if you really want to learn the ins and out of the business, like she said, it's not a sugar-coated road by any means. There's work to be done. There's gut checks to be had. But if you're looking for people who have done it and can guide you along the way, I would recommend no one higher than Tara Reid.
Thank you.
I've known her for many years, and she's just phenomenal. I mean, not just in her design, but if you go look at and visit her websites, I mean, she's very organized. She's very knowledgeable. There's no doubt about that. So I would highly recommend her. If you want to follow up with the Art Licensing Academy, there's a link right underneath the video that you're watching. Click on that. That'll take you right to the site. We'll give you more information. And if you needed to ask Tara, can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, they can email me. I've been fielding questions the past few days because I don't want people to not feel comfortable making the decision. So they can email me, info@artlicensinginfo.com will come directly to me.
And if they want to follow you on Twitter?
I'm Artist Tara Reid, pretty much everywhere, on Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook. I also have an art licensing info page on Facebook. It's facebook.com/artlicensinginfo. Big surprise. And also on Google+.
Excellent.
All right, well, we'll try to get as many of those up on the show notes as we can, and I'm gonna go with Carlos on this. Carlos, I think you're 100% correct. If you guys want to learn about licensing, Tara Reid is the one to learn it from. So hop on over there to that website and learn some stuff.
Here's the deal too, and this is what I always look at. I look at people who are also investing in themselves in other areas. If I see a coach or someone who's not investing in themselves, for me there's a misalignment of integrity there for me. I know that you join a bunch of different groups and you fly to different conventions and conferences, and you're always investing in yourself, and that's why you're successful. That's what I look at when I'm looking at someone to mentor me, is someone who's also investing in themselves, not just asking for people to invest in them, but also investing in themselves. So just a final note.
Thank you. Yeah, my final note will be, since we're speaking of masterminds and education and everything, is don't just stay in art groups. If you're interested in art licensing, there's tons of art licensing groups and tons of people talking about it, me and other people, and those are great, but also go outside of that. Like, I love going to events where I'm one of the only artists, or getting involved in groups where I'm the only person in this industry, so that I can hear, like, what are the accountants doing? Mm-hmm. What are the, video people doing? What are the multi-level marketing people doing? What's working for them in their business? Because you get into this little bubble like, oh, everybody's doing this, everybody's doing this. Like, well, what's everybody over here doing? And how can I bring that into my business? And how can that help me be different, serve my clients better, get out of the groupthink and get more ideas, which I'm sure you are. I'm sure there's not however many artists paying $1,000 a month to be in your mastermind. Right. Probably a wide variety of people.
Yeah. Yeah, one of my mentors talked about an experience where, like, if you go to like chiropractors conventions or something, they're all struggling in their business, but at a chiropractic convention, in between the breaks, they're all out in the hallways cracking each other's backs and stuff, and nobody's talking about business. Like, so I think the same thing applies to artists or any industry, where they get so focused on what they do and they kind of lose sight of the other stuff.
Yeah, and as my coach Tiffany Peterson says, your net worth equals your network.
Right.
Or no, she says it the opposite way. Your network equals your net worth. So I'm happy to have the two of you in my network.
Well, thank you. Well, that's great advice. Yeah, thanks for sharing that today.
Yeah.
All right, Tara. Anything else you'd like to say in closing?
No. Thank you for having me. And if anyone is interested in, art licensing, it's what I do for a living. Sometimes people will ask me this. I do make the majority of my income from my art, from licensing, but I do, make money from teaching too. But sometimes people think as an artist you can't make money unless you're teaching. So I'd like to dispel that myth as well. It's a great fit for me. I love the industry. I love the business. It's not easy money, but it can be done, and it takes the right attitude and skills. And if you want that, I can help you.
And it's opened up other avenues for you as well. So
yeah,
excellent. Bob, anything?
No, thank you, Tara, for joining us today. I really appreciate you coming here and telling us a little bit about what you're up to, and I hope people will come, find your program. Again, we'll have the link to it in the show notes, and we'll see you guys next week.
All right. Thank you. Have
Thanks,
a good day.
Tara. Thanks for coming on. It was a great pleasure. Hopefully we'll have you on again soon. Again, the link to the Art Licensing Academy underneath the video that you're watching right now. And this video should be available on a replay soon, probably within the next 24 hours. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. I know we had quite a few people sign up. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask Tara or send an email to carlos@drawnbysuccess.com or Bob at where, Bob?
You can get me at bobteachesart.com.
Okay, excellent. And we'll wrap that up. We want to be conscious of everybody else's time. Tara, thanks again. You've been wonderful. We love you.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
All right.
Thanks, Tara.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.